Hi, my name is Lynn Casey. I work at Lake Ridge Neighborhood Library, and we are currently in the central makerspace. I'm going to show you how to make a simple drawstring bag. This is one that I've made. These are others that I've made that I use for different things. Primarily, these were used for carrying shoes when they're in the suitcase so that you aren't getting dirt all over your clothes. You can tell this is my husband's bag and this is mine. So what you're going to need to make this bag is a piece of fabric. We have suggested a ½ yard of fabric, but that is plenty to make more than one. And you're going to need also some ribbon. We measured this ribbon to be 24 inches because the piece of fabric that you cut is 10 inches by 15 inches. And the ribbon has to be twice the width of the bag plus 4 inches. So that comes to 24 inches. You will also need a sewing machine. You'll need some scissors, some safety pins, a small ruler. Now, I brought a couple of other things with me that are nice to have, but not necessarily need to have. I have this here purple Thang, and that's exactly what it's called, the purple Thang. And that's to help turn your corners, and I'll show you how that gets used later. This is used to pull things, especially elastic. This time it will be the ribbon. You undo this, put it in there, close it up. But it's just as easy to use a safety pin. This is just a curiosity. This is called a darning egg. And if you were fixing a sock or something that's circular, you would stick this up here and then weave in. You can use it with or without the handle, just like that. We're not going to use that for this project. I just thought it was interesting. Okay, first thing you need to do is cut your fabric to size. Now, I have made a couple of samples here. The first one, you cut it to 15 by 10 inches. You sew a bottom seam down here, 1/4 inch. Now, if you want to eliminate this seam, you can do that by cutting a piece long enough to do both ends. However, if you're using directional fabric, you probably don't want to do that. Now, this is what's called directional fabric. Obviously, it goes in one direction. If you cut one long piece of this, you're going to have some of your houses right side up and some upside down. So you probably only want to do it with fabric that it doesn't matter which way it goes. Okay, so once you've made your bottom seam like this, you're going to hem the sides of your fabric simply because you don't want raw edges when you put your ribbon through here, because eventually it'll start really fraying badly. The next step would be to take your fabric and iron down 1/4 inch at the top and then another additional inch. This is going to make a channel for your ribbon to go through. And you do that on both ends. Once you've done that, as you can see, I sewed across the bottom. Now, in the directions, we did not have you sewing across the top until after you've sewn the sides together. It makes more sense to sew across the top first, because then you don't have to worry about getting in a circular area, and it's just easier that way. In this step, you would take your material and put your right sides together. And you're going to sew down the edge of the material about 1/4 inch, being sure to stop before you get to the channel. Yes. Why is it? You can always stop and check to make sure that your sides are matching up. I try to start from the bottom because it gives me a little more wiggle room. I'm the queen of errors. Again, you want to stop just before you get to that lower edge there on the channel so that you aren't sewing the channel closed. Okay, now you have your bag, but it's inside out, so you turn it right sides out. I'm going to use my purple thing to push out my bottom. Entirely not necessary to have the, you could use a pencil, you could use any pointed object, just don't get it to be too sharp because then you'll punch a hole in the bottom of your bag. At this point, you are now ready to put the ribbons through the top channel. The last step is to take your ribbon, and this is where you have to pay attention to this one because this can really mess you up if you do it. I have to really think about it. Okay, so you put your safety pin on the end of the ribbon and you insert it into the channel here. And you are going to push it all the way around. And when you get to this end, you're going to continue on to the other side and do the same thing. Okay. Be careful not to pull it all the way through or you'll be doing it again. Ask me how I know. Okay, so you end on this side. Now, this is the part you have to keep your head straight on. You take your second ribbon and you want to insert that in with the safety pin. And if you started on this side on this one, you start on this side because you want it to end up on the other end. It'll make more sense in a minute. Again, you insert it in the channel. You come around like this. You may want to use your safety pin and clip these together so you don't lose them when you're working on the second one. That'll keep it from going through when you don't want it to. And so you continue on the second side. And you want to have this one come out on the opposite side from this one. And there you are. So now you would sew your ribbons together, and I would say to do it 2 or 3 times to keep it so that it doesn't pull apart. Because what you're going to do is the way you close your bag is you have your ribbons on both sides, you pull it closed, you have your drawstring bag. Now, once I put all of these together, I will be able to impress every TSA agent in the nation when they go through my luggage.